Good morning, my name is Chef Winston, and today I am cooking a special meal. I am making a country French chicken. So today we're going to do part one of the video. I'm going to show you guys how to cut the vegetables for the dish and the proper way to sanitize your hands and the proper way to wash all the vegetables. So I think the first thing that we need to do to prepare our chicken dish is to wash our hands. So I'm going to show everyone how the proper procedure for washing your hands. First of all, turn the water on using a paper towel. Secondly, use a disinfectant for your hands. You're going to squirt some out. You're going to rub it into your hands, and then you're going to put your hands under hot water, and you're going to scrub in between your fingers, all around your wrists, your fingernails, in between the fingers. You're supposed to get a thick lather, so I might need a little bit more. And you keep scrubbing. You need to scrub for 20 seconds to make sure that your hands have been absolutely sterilized before you get ready to cook. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So now my hands are actually clean. I cleaned under my fingernails. I cleaned in between my fingers. And as you can see, I got lots of soap on there. So I'm going to wash. I'm not touching the nozzle on the sink at all. I'm just rinsing the soap from my hands. Okay, and then I'm going to take paper towel and I'm going to turn the water off with the paper towel, because when you touch the nozzle with your hands, you recontaminate them. And you make sure you dry them nice and well. And that's the first part. So now I'm going to put on my food service gloves. Make sure you don't touch the outside of the glove. You want to touch the inside of the gloves. And you want to make sure that you get them on and they fit well. So now we got gloves on. We are ready to cook. Our hands are washed. Our area is set up, and we're ready to cook. So what I've got here is I've got a head of celery. I got a bunch of parsley. I got a yellow onion, and I got some mushrooms. So I think we'll start with the mushrooms first. First things first, I'm gonna drain off the liquid in the mushrooms, and I'm gonna put them down here on my, as you can see, I got my mise en place already set up. So all we're gonna do really is cut these little mushrooms in half. We're not gonna do anything special because I want to make sure that when I cook the dish that the mushrooms are whole or at least quartered. So we cut that part. Now zoom in a little bit. So these are mushrooms that are in a jar, but you can use fresh mushrooms that will work just as well with this particular dish. So we're going to cut the mushrooms and we're going to put them into bowls and get them ready for the cooking process. All right, we got our mushrooms cut. Then the next thing we're going to do is our celery. Now celery is actually pretty dirty. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel like 3 pieces off. And we are going to cut them, but we're going to wash them first because they definitely need to be washed first. Because celery has a lot of grit in the celery. So we wash them really good and make sure there's no dirt on the celery whatsoever. Okay. They're pretty good and washed. Now we're gonna cut them up. So, rule of thumb with celery, the top leaves are always bitter. So you always cut the top leaves off first. And we've got some pretty good looking stalks here. So this green part here, I want to take that off too because it's not what I'm looking for. All right. So we got 3 stalks of celery, which is more than enough for this dish because we're gonna cook like maybe 10 pieces of chicken. And we want to make sure that there's enough celery to give it that good celery flavor. So, I'm going to do them all at once, and I'm going to cut them on the bias, which basically means that you're cutting them on like a diagonal kind of cut. So once you cut your celery like this, don't make the pieces too big and don't make them too small, because as they cook, they will shrink a little bit. Just go through and finish cutting. Cutting, 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 cutting. You're almost there. All right, we got our celery all cut and ready to go. So we're gonna put that in our bowl. And if you think that the celery is too big, you can always go back and chop them up a little bit more. But I like the way that the celery looks when you put them into the dish. They look like this. So it looks kind of fancy because this is a fancy dish. So the next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna take our something called this is not flat leaf parsley, but this is regular parsley. And of course, it's in a nice little bunch like that. We're gonna rinse it in cold water. Make sure that it's rinsed good. Give it about a minute or 2 when you're rinsing. Shake off the water. Okay, so the trick to this is you kind of bring your knife in towards the top of the parsley and you take off the stems. Now you can use the stems for something else later on if you have something else you want to use it for, like you can make a chicken stock or a beef stock or a pork stock or something. You can use this leftover parsley for that. So you keep cutting, and the ideal here is you want to make sure that you keep your fingers away from the blade as you cut. Fingers away from the blade. You want to give it a good chop because you don't want big pieces of parsley in your dish. So you keep cutting. Chop, 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 chop. So you're almost done. All right, we're almost there. A little bit more, I think, because we want the pieces to be kind of small. All right. I think that's pretty good. And we're gonna put that in our bowl. All right, then our last part. So you see how the board is? So every time you get ready to make something, you have to make sure that you clean your board in between each operation, because you want to make sure that the board, like this board, the other one wasn't dirty, but you can see this one is dirty, so we're going to wash this one. And the other thing you can do is you can take the board and you can turn it over and start fresh. If you turn it over and start fresh, you don't have to wash it, but you got to make sure that you know that you turned it over. So we're going to go to our onion. I've got a nice big fat yellow onion here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make enough pieces for my chicken dish. So I'm going to cut off both ends. and put the scraps on the side there, and I'm going to cut it in half like that. And for this particular dish, I don't want the onion to be overpowering. So I want the onion to match the ingredients that are already in the dish. If I put this whole onion in there, it'll have way too much onion flavor. So we want to make sure that each ingredient in the dish is balanced. So we're going to peel our onion, take the skin off. Make sure you don't get any skin in there. There's nothing worse than eating a piece of food and it's still got onion skins in it or anything like that. So now the first thing you're going to do, you put your hand on top of your onion and you slide your knife in. You do it like 3 times. Okay, then you turn it and you cut in between. In between, like that, like that. Then you turn it once more time and you cut it one more time. And as you can see, you have just cut a half an onion in like 30 seconds. Now, again, you want to make sure you roll your fingers in so your fingers are away from the blade of the knife. If your fingers get near the blade, you're going to have a problem. So I think these pieces are a little bit big, so I'm going to cut them again. And being careful not to making sure that your blade is not near your fingers. You cut them again. And as you can see, our onions are ready. So this particular dish calls for half an onion, half a yellow onion. So we got our yellow onion. We're going to put into our bowl. I would not suggest that you use red onion. I would not suggest that you use a scallion or green onion because this is country French chicken. So it needs to have that flavor of the country French countryside. So we got our mushrooms, we got our parsley, we got our celery, and we have our onions. These are all the components of the dish, and this is the end of part 1. Good morning. Welcome to our kitchen. Today is the second part of our country French chicken recipe. So today I'm going to show you how to cut up a whole fryer in maybe about 2 minutes. So let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is, you can see I got my whole chicken here. It's already been washed and cleaned. I always start with the leg, so I'm going to start with the leg. And as you can see, I've got a very, very sharp knife. That's very important. I'm going to break the bone apart, and I'm going to take the leg part off. That's the first part. Then I'm going to do the other leg. Actually, you should get about 10 pieces to 12 pieces of chicken from this fryer. And as you can see, I'm going down in between the bone. And you want to pop the leg out, because when you pop the leg out, it's a lot easier to cut. Okay, that's the second part. Now I'm going to do the wings. Go right in between the joint. Okay, that's the first wing, and here is the second wing. Okay, now we're going to cut the breast. I go right down the middle, and I use a lot of force because there's a lot of bone in there, and I take this part and I break it like that. Cut that part out, and now I have these 4 pieces. So right here, there's a piece called the wishbone, which is right in here, and I'm going to cut right here. This is a pretty big chicken. So the wishbone part's gonna be pretty big. And I'm gonna butterfly it, and there we have the wishbone part. Then I'm gonna do the breast. What I normally do, I'll stick my knife in like that, and go down the center. And I kinda do it some more. It's being stubborn, but that's okay. We're gonna work with it. There we go. Down the middle. And there we have it. We have two separate chicken breasts. Chicken breasts. Okay, now I'm gonna take this part. They usually use this for stock, but I like to use it to eat. So I'm gonna break that part and break it, the backbone, and that part. All right, we got one more part to do. We're gonna make chicken thighs. Cut that part, and you cut in. Kind of keep your fingers away from the blade. And then I'm gonna do the other one. And we want to save those parts to make stock with. And I cut like that, keeping my finger away from the blade. And as you can see, whole chicken cut up. All right, so now that we have our chicken cut up, I'm gonna season the chicken. I'm gonna start with some black pepper. And I wanna make sure I don't put too much, because I don't want the flavors. I want to taste the flavor of the chicken. Okay. And the second part is some salt. Again, not too much. A little bit of salt. And I've got some garlic powder here. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic powder. And that is it for our seasoning. Okay, so now we're going to set up our chicken and get it ready. Oh, I forgot one part. Let's add our lemon juice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze the lemon into my hand, which is not squeezing. Let's try this one. It's coming out, but it's coming out very slowly. All right, we got some lemon on there. Now we're going to take and set up our chicken. So I've got a roasting pan here, and I'm just going to take the chicken and I put it into the roasting pan. No, wait a minute. We got to saute the chicken first. Sorry. Let's go to the oven and saute the chicken. So we got a skillet here with a little bit of vegetable oil in it. And we're going to saute the piece of the chicken into the oil. And you want to make sure your skillet is pretty hot. And it will start to sizzle in a minute. So the chicken that we cut up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces. These are some really, really big breasts, as you can see. I'm going to cut these in half before I finish sauteing them, because they're really big. And we got a lot of hungry people today, so when I cook this dish, I'm going to make sure that these pieces are not too big. The average size piece should be like this. That's a good size for that piece. And as our chicken cooks, it's going to brown on one side, and once it's brown on one side, then it's going to brown on the other side. I'm going to brown it on the other side. And we are going to let it brown pretty good. So it's starting to brown a little bit. I got the heat on high, and I want to make sure it stays on high. Starting to brown. a little. I think I'm going to add a little bit more salt and pepper on the other side. I just want to make sure that it's seasoned well. I'm going to just turn this one over, season it. And I'm going to add a little bit more garlic powder on both sides. And that's about good for seasoning. I normally add paprika to this one, but today we're going to do it without paprika. So as you can see, the chicken is starting to brown. And you want to make sure that the chicken is completely browned on both sides. Okay, so now we have finished browning our chicken. As you can see, I browned all the chicken pieces on both sides. And now we're ready to assemble our dish. So it usually takes about 10-15 minutes to brown all the chicken on both sides. And we're going to put our dish together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deglaze my pan with a little bit of white wine. So I'm going to use like a cup of white wine. There's my white wine right there. And then I'm going to deglaze this pan. All I'm going to do is scrape up the brown bits. As you can see the brown bits in the pan. That's where all the flavor is. Scrape them up real good. And then I'm going to add my chicken stock to that. I got 2 cups of chicken stock. I'm going to add that in. Okay. That's that part. And again, keep scraping and mixing. Scraping and mixing. Alright. So now we got that part done. We're going to add, and by the way, this pan is cool. It's not hot anymore. So we're going to add our onions. We're going to add our mushrooms. We're going to add our carrots and celery. Carrot and celery. And as you can see, it's very colorful. Carrots and celery. And we're going to add our chicken stock and white wine. Just pour it on over. Chicken stock and white wine. I would use all of this because you want to make the chicken cook really well. All right, and then our last part is we're going to add a little bit of bay leaf, and I'm just going to sprinkle that across. I'm not going to put too much. Bay leaf is a very powerful herb, so you want to be careful that you don't use too much. And then the last part is parsley. This is fresh parsley. You can use dry parsley if you choose to do so. I like the dry one better. And that is our dish. So now it's ready to go into the oven. As you can see, it's very colorful. And we're going to put it in a 375-degree oven. And we're going to let it cook. Although we browned it on the outside, we're going to let it cook for 45 minutes to an hour to make sure that the chicken is fully cooked on the inside. All right, so now we have our finished dish, country French chicken. And as you can see in the pan, it's nice and brown. The meat is nice and tender. Our vegetables are cooked really well. And I decided for this particular meal, I'm gonna pair it with garlic mashed potatoes. Well, I added a little bit of chicken stock to the garlic mashed potatoes. And then I got some country style green beans with a little bit of bacon and a little bit of onion. I think that's a perfect match for this dish. So I'm gonna show you how to set it up. So first I'm gonna put some potatoes on the plate. That's the first part. I know that's a lot of potatoes. I like a lot of potatoes. And then I'm gonna put a piece of chicken on the plate. And then I'm gonna add some green beans. Okay. And I'm gonna take some of the gravy or the juice that's inside the bowl, inside the pan, the wine sauce, and I'm gonna drizzle that on top of the potatoes. That will help the flavor come out a little bit better. And some on top of the chicken too, I think. Okay, and then I'm gonna finish it off with a little bit of parsley on top. I think a little bit more juice. This is the chicken breast, and the chicken breasts usually are a little bit dry, so I want to add a little bit more to that. And there you have it, guys. Country French chicken. Enjoy!